Hi, everyone. Welcome to Dishing Drama with Dana Wilkie Uncensored. We have officially moved to Patreon. Here's a sneak peek of Dishing Drama with Dana Wilkie.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
So we've done a lot of Real Housewives of New Jersey, but I suppose it's all okay because it is airing right now. So it is kind of top on the mind for most people that are in the Bravo landscape. And I'm going to continue to do that a little bit longer this week because I got reached out to by an anonymous person. And this anonymous person sent me a recording from Look Over Ladies, which was done in 2019. And it had Jacqueline Laurita and some other women that were co-hosting this podcast. And she lays out all of the things that she was aware of at the time to do with Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice's indictment history at that moment and what went down from her perspective. She also shares some insight into Joe Giudice's relationship with Teresa at the time and also some other tea that is going to become so important in the upcoming season. And you guys are going to love listening to this now because it's just, oh God, you'll see. Okay, just trust me. So I am going to play this for you. I'm going to edit it down to just the significant parts of this podcast from 2019. You have to keep in mind that Jacqueline Laurita is Caroline Manzo's sister-in-law, and she also is enemies of Teresa at this time. She was friends with Teresa since they were young. She had a long-term friendship. It fell apart on Real Housewives of New Jersey. So at the time that this is recorded, she hates Teresa. Right now, currently, they're friends again. But back when this was recorded, she didn't. And she spilled a lot of tea that's relevant today. And then I'm going to add little sound bites from the show to really bring it all home for you. You're going to love this. And then I'm going to spill some tea that I was sent. Okay, let's do this.
Come on, bitch, let's go.
Okay, so I'm ready to play this for you. There's a few things I want to call out to you, and I will comment in between stuff as we go. But the first thing I want to say is that you're going to gather that there's no way Teresa Giudice is ever going to be fired from this show in this soundbite. You're going to figure that out real quick. So if you guys have been speculating that for the upcoming season, based on Gabriella's text messages being dropped in NBC and Bravo being notified, etc., and the investigation, the answer to that question is no, Teresa is not getting fired ever. Okay? Because this is pretty much her show. So that's number one I want you to get across. Number two, you're going to get out of this that Teresa Giudice does not control casting. So no matter how much she wants Melissa Gorga off the show, she's never getting her off the show unless production doesn't want her or like someone becomes so much of a pain in the ass that they can't, control them. Okay, you're also going to learn in this how the investigation started on Teresa Giudice and Joe Giudice back in the day, and it did not have to do with a cast member. You're going to find out, though, after the investigation was started, out of all of the suspects, which was Jackie Laurita and her husband, Chris, Caroline Manzo, Joe Mastropouli, Joe Gorga, and Kim G, who really was interviewed by the feds and, who helped this investigation along. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and you'll figure that out by the end. And then you're also going to learn that Jackie Goldschneider has really plotted a lot to try to hurt Teresa Giudice. And so has done some pretty deviant shit that nobody's aware of behind the scenes because she seems kind of quiet over in the corner, but it turns out she's lied about a few things. And Jackie does retaliate. So there's been some things that she's done, which I'm going to set the record straight because I got sent some receipts about this to do with Jackie and Teresa Giudice and also Jacqueline Laurita and what really went down and why. And it was just really cool behind the scenes stuff. So even though it's a little dated, that gossip, I still want to share it because it's a very cool intel. Jacqueline Laurita, take it away from 2019.
So to give you a little history, Joe and Teresa were indicted back in 2013 on 41 counts of fraud. They initially pleaded not guilty, but then later they changed their minds and entered a plea of guilty, just, because they were trying to lessen their sentence. And Teresa ended up going to prison on 4 counts of fraud. I think it was conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud and 3 counts of bankruptcy fraud. So she went to jail to prison for a little over 15 months. And after her sentence was done, Joe went in to prison for about 3.5 years, 41 months. And when he finished his sentence, they led him straight to ICE custody. And he recently got released from ICE and escorted to Italy. That's where he was born, while he awaits his final appeal of his deportation hearing. So this is the 4th and final appeal. So it'll be his last shot of possibly living in the United States or ever even being able to enter it again. They have 4 daughters together. Joe, he was an illegal citizen of the United States when they committed their crimes. The mail and wire bankruptcy fraud, hiding assets, failure to file and pay taxes. I think it was between 2004 and 2008, etc. So I guess, Joe tried to get Teresa out of trouble because he tried to take responsibility, because a lot of it was like business dealings and things like that Teresa really didn't have too much knowledge of. But where she screwed up, she claimed to have a job as a real estate agent and work for his company just so they could get like a bigger mortgage and things like that, apparently. And what happened was, they had filed bankruptcy, then they withdrew. And I guess when she went in front of the judge, the judge said she didn't fully disclose all her financial assets.
So I'm going to jump in here and read the press release from October 2nd, 2014 from the United States Attorney's Office about this, because it has a lot more detail than what's said on this show that Jackie's doing, and then we'll return to Jackie. But I want to read it to you. I also want you guys to know that I am a big advocate for rehabilitation of the justice system. I do believe that our justice system is broken. I believe that it serves the wealthy and not the regular people. I think it has issues with being homophobic and hurting minorities. I think that if you ask most prosecutors, they'll agree with me that there's a huge need for change. Our founding fathers never wanted us to do plea deals. They wanted us to go in front of a jury of our peers and be judged properly. They wanted it to be equal, meaning the prosecutors and the person who's being charged could actually fight at the same level, none of which really exists anymore. Also, back in the day, you would be indicted with a one-sided argument from a prosecutor, which they didn't mind because they knew you would have a jury trial and that would get rectified. And that doesn't exist anymore, especially with news, articles, tabloids, TV, all this stuff. The minute the person's indicted, they're actually kind of found guilty in the public opinion sector, which isn't fair because at the point of indictment, it's only a one-sided argument, meaning the prosecutor is the only one who presents the case from one side. So of course you're going to lose. There's a lot of things people don't know about the law. It is in desperate need for rehabilitation and review. It's a huge business. It is corrupt like many businesses, and often prosecutors will pile on the charges to get you to plea out for lesser charges. So I dropped this caveat. I also want to point out that Teresa Giudice fulfilled her debt to society, and so she shouldn't be judged, beyond that at this point. She was found guilty of something. I'm about to read it to you, but she did everything she was supposed to do. So you shouldn't hold it over her head. And that's not the intention of my podcast today. Now, why I'm bringing it up is because it's intertwined in the gossip I'm going to tell you. And okay, so that's it. I'm the last person who's going to judge Teresa Giudice on this front. United States Attorney's Office. Real Housewives of New Jersey stars sentenced to prison for conspiracy, bankruptcy, fraud, and tax offenses offenses Thursday, October 2nd, 2014. 41 months for Giuseppe Giudice, 15 months for Teresa Giudice. Newark, New Jersey. Two of the stars of the television show The Real Housewives of New Jersey were sentenced today to prison terms for committing a string of crimes as part of a long-running financial fraud conspiracy, U.S. Attorney Paul J. Fishman announced. Teresa Giudice, 42, and her husband Giuseppe Joe Giudice, 44, both of Tawaco, New Jersey, were sentenced to 15 months and 41 months in prison, respectively. Both defendants previously pleaded guilty before U.S. District Judge Esther Solis in Newark Federal Court to several counts of the superseding indictment returned against them in July 2013. There was one indictment and then they did another indictment where they adjusted it slightly. The Giudices each pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud, one count of bankruptcy fraud by concealment of assets, one count of bankruptcy fraud by false oaths, and one count of bankruptcy fraud by false declarations. Giuseppe Giudice also pleaded guilty to one count of failure to file a tax return. Judge Salas also imposed the sentences today. Judge Salas ordered Teresa Giudice to report to the Bureau of Prisons on January 5, 2015 to begin serving her sentence. Giuseppe Giudice will report to serve his sentence after his wife finishes serving her prison term. The Giudices together deceived financial institutions with patently false loan applications, were dishonest when they sought the protection of the bankruptcy court and hid assets and income from trustee, and Giuseppe Giudice cheated the government by failing to pay taxes on years of significant income, U.S. Attorney Fishman said. When they pleaded guilty, both admitted swearing to statements they knew were lies. Prison is the appropriate penalty for these serious financial crimes. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, Office of Inspector General, is pleased to join the U.S. Attorney's Office and our law enforcement partners in the final phase of the prosecution. Today's sentences highlights the seriousness of offenses that undermine the integrity of the financial services industry. We are committed in our efforts to uncover such fraudulent schemes that cause harm to FDIC-insured institutions and to the nation's housing industry. Reality hit home today for Giuseppe and Teresa Giudice. Jonathan D. Larson, acting special agent in charge of IRS, blah, blah, blah. They are now both convicted felons with a prison sentence to serve. Choosing lies over truth when dealing with the IRS, banks, and bankruptcy court will not be tolerated. Concealing assets and lying in a bankruptcy case are crimes deserving of punishment. Then they go on. The Giudices remain responsible for paying their debts. They lost the protection our bankruptcy law afford debtors because they broke the law to obtain it. So that means like the 11 million plus debt that Teresa and Joe were trying to get rid of during these bankruptcies remained. According to documents filed in this case and statements made in court, from September 2001 through September 2008, Giuseppe and Teresa Giudice engaged in a mail and wire fraud conspiracy in which they submitted fraudulent applications and supporting documents to lenders in order to obtain mortgages and other loans. The Giudices falsely represented on loan applications and supporting documents that they were employed and or receiving substantial salaries when they were either not employed or not receiving such salaries. In September 2001, Teresa Giudice applied for a $121,500 mortgage loan for which she submitted a loan application falsely claiming she was employed as an executive assistant. She also submitted a fake W-2 form and fake pay stubs purportedly issued by her employer for a $361,250 mortgage loan that Teresa Giudice obtained in July of 2005. She and Giuseppe Giudice prepared a loan application which falsely stated she was employed as a realtor and that she made a monthly salary of $15,000. In fact, Teresa Giudice was not employed at the time. On October 29, 2009, they filed a petition for individual Chapter 7 bankruptcy protection in U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Newark. Over the next few months, they filed several amendments to the bankruptcy petition. As part of the bankruptcy filings, the Giudices were required to disclose to the United States trustee their assets, liabilities, income, and any anticipated increases in income. The Giudices intentionally concealed businesses they owned, income they received from a rental property, and Teresa Giudice's true income, the Real Housewives of New Jersey website sales, and personal and magazine appearances. The Giudices concealed their anticipated increase increase in income from the then upcoming season of the show. They also testified falsely under oath in bankruptcy proceedings when questioned about their assets and income. Giuseppe Giudice also admitted that during tax years 2004 through 2008, he received income totaling $996,459, but did not file tax returns for those years. In addition to the prison terms, Judge Salas sentenced Giuseppe and Teresa Giudice each to 2 years of supervised release and ordered the couple to forfeit $414,588. Additionally, the judge fined Giuseppe Giudice $10,000 and fined Teresa $8,000. Giuseppe Giudice was advised by the court that he faces deportation after serving his sentence. The decision was made by U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement following completion of his prison sentence.
Yeah, I might have, did a couple, cheated or some things on my tax returns. Who did? You know what I mean? The only thing that that my accountant didn't do was file my personal tax returns. He filed my business tax returns. He didn't file my personal tax returns for whatever reason. And that was the reason why they got into it, started looking into everything. And of course, they had to find something. And they actually didn't really even have, if I was a citizen, it would have been nothing. Believe me, it would have been nothing. I would have probably been out in like a year. I would have been home. It would have been over and forgotten, and it would have been like nothing. You know what I mean? But being that I wasn't a citizen, that's what made it, so much worse, and made it to where it got. Which was my fault. I should have always, became a citizen, and I never did. But whatever. I mean, you can't cry about spilled milk. Right? It's pretty much water under the bridge.
So we all know what happens, right? Joe Giudice tries to appeal 4 times. He loses all 4 times because he was an illegal immigrant in the United States at the time that this all occurs instead of being a legal immigrant. So that kills that for him. Meanwhile, Teresa Giudice is still here and, she pays, I think, the debt out of her salary and gets rid of that. And I don't know what ended up happening with the other $11 million debt, that they still have to pay. So that's sort of an unknown because it wasn't a criminal restitution. It was a debt that the U.S. government wouldn't allow them to remedy with bankruptcy. So that debt remained. So I'm assuming that multiple things were foreclosed on and they tried to get as much of that money back. And that's what happened. I don't know to what degree or another, but that's sort of an exterior thing. And I don't know if Teresa still deals with that. She very well may be paying payments or something. But anyway, that's how it all went down. A lot. It's a lot, for sure. So when you look really closely at the press release, you notice the gentlemen that are involved in the case, and one of which is the trustee for Region 3 of the U.S. And so that tells me that how this investigation began was through a filing of a bankruptcy that they felt might have fraudulent components of it. Now, Jackie has additional insight into this, that maybe it wasn't just that. It was that they tried to withdraw the bankruptcy. They regretted doing it at a certain point, and that also red flagged things like, why are you not moving forward now? And it was already too late because the banking institutions were talking to a trustee who then could get information to get enough evidence to eventually indict them. And of course, then federal agents would start interviewing people close to Teresa and Joe Giudice to try to strengthen their case. Let Jackie take over now.
So the judge actually had said to her, this was a quote from the judge. They said, "For a moment, I thought about probation. I don't believe you understand or respect the law. I need to send a message. In the eye of the law, it doesn't matter who you are. There are consequences to pay." Because, she had lied and did all that, they ended up sending her to prison too. Not as long as Joe, but, they both went. So now, originally Teresa had claimed that she'd be standing by her man throughout everything. And now it looks like all of that has changed. So Joe is now living in Italy while he awaits the deportation decision. And Teresa still lives in New Jersey with her 4 daughters, with her father and stuff. And so they came on Watch What Happens Live to discuss, the state of their marriage. And they kind of talked on that. So I wanted to I know her so well, and I know that both of them, so I have my opinions on the whole, what I gathered from all that, and just little things that I know just from insiders. we have a lot of mutual friends and mutual people that are close to her situation. So I get a lot of, people feeding me things sometimes. And, I hear stuff through the grapevine locally and, so yeah, I think that Joe, he just got out of prison. Of course he wants to be with his family. He would love for it to work. I mean, Joe's going to be Joe. But I think Teresa has had a taste now of this newfound, independence that she has now. She's now making more money than, he is. So he is of no use to her because now she's making enough money to support herself. She's been supporting herself, with the help of her friends and family and, her job. So she's able to,
make it on her own
she doesn't need him.
That's a trait of a narcissist.
And she's a narcissist, sociopath. Yes. But she was forced into pleading guilty. She was forced into, they had video of her signing these documents at the banks and things like that. So she couldn't get out of it. You know what I mean? And I think she's angry at her husband for trusting him. Also, because there's, on top of the things that she did, there's things that he did that she didn't know either. She didn't know everything, but she's not innocent for sure. I know this. But, and I think that she's angry at him because she felt like she spent that time away from her kids, her family, the public embarrassment, and also the fact that once she got out, her mom passed away shortly after, and she was very close to her mom. So she looked at it like a time of, that year I could have spent with my mom before she died, but I had to spend it in here. And she's, when you're in there, you're looking for someone to blame. Like, Teresa mentioned Joe gave her a lot of attitude when he was in there because, you're stuck there and, you take things out on each other. She was angry when she was in there. I remember her brother saying to me, Teresa's more angry now than she's ever been. She's worse now than before. That's what her brother used to say to me.
So then there's a lot of resentment behind that.
Right.
For the full scoop, join the Dishing Drama Dana Patreon. The link is in this audio description. It's only $6 a month, and you'll get the best information and tea about the things you care about, and even the things you don't know you care about. What are you waiting for?